Well, we are back, and our very special guest today has written a book called JoyRide, Life, Death, and Forgiveness, a memoir, and that is by Pamela Koefoed. She's with us today. And by the way, Pamela is going to be the guest speaker today at the Jackson County Annual Luncheon, and that's going to be from noon to 1:30 at the Country Club, right?
That's correct. I'm looking very forward to this.
Okay. You have a fascinating story, and we have to squeeze it in a short amount of time, but knowing the story, why did you name the book JoyRide? It was anything but a joyride, wasn't it?
There was joy in it, but it's actually a play on words, and people who read the book quickly pick up the meaning behind the title. My mother's name was Joy, and she's one of the main characters in my memoir. When I was a child, nearly every day, she would take my sister and I for a ride in her 1967 red Impala. Oh. And we would go to one of two bars. Oh. And in one bar, we were actually permitted to be inside because they didn't serve liquor. And we would sit there all day and sometimes late into the night until Mother was thoroughly drunk. And then we would go on a terrifying ride home. And the second bar, we would wait for many, many hours out in the parking lot in the car for a Mother to return for us. And so the name, like I said, is a play on words.
Well, quickly, give us your story. It's not fair, but I want people to get the essence of it.
My mother was incarcerated for crimes that she committed against my stepdad, my sister Robin, and myself.
Really?
She committed arson, lit our home on fire on 4 different occasions.
Wow.
And this put her in prison. And when she came out of prison, my sister and I, we were little kids. I was 7 and 8 when the fires occurred. When she came out of prison, then we were returned to her. Now that's pretty shocking.
The courts put you back there?
They put us right back with our mother. This was in the early 70s, wow. Late 60s, early 70s. When we returned to Mother, she just plunged into drinking. She had a little boy, and I'm speeding the story up. She had a baby. 40 years today, actually, January 15th, my brother was born. And she began leaving him with us, with my sister and I. We were little girls. Left him in our care. It started out with one day, then days and nights. When he was when he was 8 weeks old was the first time that she left Stephen in our care overnight. And that increased to weeks. We would be weeks without our mother, and we would run out of food. We were neglected. We had lost most of our possessions in those 4 fires. We were hungry. We were starving. We were out without food, without diapers, without protection. My sister and I learned how to survive. People in poverty often learn how to survive. They're come up with very creative ways to try to make food stretch. We went out looking for food. We became seasonal fruit pickers, gathering fruit from neighborhood trees just so that we could survive. And the story is much more. I wish I could give you more information, but there's just not enough time. But it was quite an adventure, training ground for what I'm doing now.
I'm stunned. I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So when your mother came out of prison, she obviously went back into alcoholism.
She did.
What happened to her?
She plunged into alcohol. There are many causes behind the reasons that she did what she did, and none of them make any sense.
Right.
She was a person who had bitterness toward her mother, so there was a lot of unforgiveness in her soul. Her drinking, of course, contributed to that. She was neglectful to begin with. When I was 1 year old, she was already leaving me with my sister, and my sister was 3 years old. So if you can imagine a 3-year-old taking care of a 1-year-old. So when Stephen was born, she just continued in that same pattern of just neglecting us. We had very few clothing. My hair was long, brown hair was knotted to the base of my scalp. I was never bathed. My clothing was never washed. There was an aroma that hung around me. The neglect was very, very severe. But I'm so grateful to God because He does cause all things to work together for those who love Him.
What happened? How did you find God in all this?
When I was a little girl, I was drawn to Him. I had inside of me a drawing force, drawing me to Jesus. And somehow, even though I wasn't raised in a Christian home, I knew Jesus. Now, I believe that sometimes the Lord comes to little children and speaks to them, and I believe that's what happened to me. I had an aunt who was planting seeds in my life, but it was Jesus himself who drew me. The fourth and last fire, I'd like to just talk about that for a second. After the fires, there was reconstruction work in between the fires. 2 happened at night while we were in bed, 2 in the daytime. The final one destroyed everything, just about all the contents of our home. I was a latchkey kid. I was accustomed to coming home and no one being there. My sister would arrive home an hour after me. And so on this particular day, I walked up to the door. I had my hand on the knob of my door. I was 8 years old, beginning to turn it when I heard a voice. And that voice, we all know that God speaks to us in many different ways. And so it did not come to me in a language like this. It came to me in a silent language, but I understood it nonetheless. And he told me to turn and run. I ran from my house, and before I arrived at my neighbor's door to knock on her door and say, something's wrong, there was a loud explosion. My house exploded into fire. Now, before this, I had been praying. Somehow I knew to talk to Jesus. And every night I had been asking him to protect me and my family. And so it cemented in my heart that this was Jesus who saved me. Even though I didn't see him, I heard him. And because of this, I had a great propensity for the things of God and for spiritual things.
Wow, what a story.
Yeah.
When your mother lit the house on fire, was she intending to kill you too?
You know, I don't really know that. Only God knows that. But I do know that I do believe that she didn't know what she was doing. Mm-hmm. I think that there were many causes on many levels for the things that she was doing. I also believe it was spiritual. I don't include this in my story because they didn't want to freak readers out. But before the first fire, I actually saw the spirit of fear in my house. It was a spirit that manifested, and I saw it with my eyes. And I believe, this is my personal opinion, that it influenced my mother.
You and your siblings today, are they believers?
My sister is a pastor. I'm an evangelist. It's a remarkable, remarkable story. God is just so good in our lives. My brother hasn't fully come to the Lord, but he believes. It was harder for him to be recovered from the pain, but because of the work of the Holy Spirit in mine and my sister's hearts, we have mostly recovered.
And your mom?
My mom has passed on. She passed away a few years ago when she was 68.
Incredible story, because all psychology would tell you shouldn't be normal.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the rejection, the experience, being left to care for yourself, all of that would be so psychologically damaging that, you know, you couldn't recover from it.
I believe the presence of Jesus with me throughout my childhood helped to preserve me. I mean, for instance, at night when I couldn't sleep because I was brokenhearted, the pain of the hunger was overshadowed by the ache in my heart for my mother. And I would lay in bed and I would sing songs. I would sing songs to Jesus. And as I would sing, this incredible peace would come upon me and I would be able to fall asleep. And I believe that same presence, that's the Holy Spirit. I believe that he was with me my whole life. But I also walked through the process of healing. I submitted myself to God. I resisted the devil and he fled. And then the Lord brought healing to my soul. And you know, healing is a journey. For all of us, it's a journey. You know, we're not going to be complete until we're in heaven. And one of the main keys for anybody who's going through a tough time and who has childhood pain or a lot of regret or pain is forgiveness. And I found that living a lifestyle of forgiveness and making the commitment that I would love my mother unconditionally and I would be a daughter to her even if she wouldn't be a mother to me. I practiced that my whole life. That commitment helped to keep me whole, helped to keep me well. And as I walked through the healing journey with Jesus and with people who loved me, that belief that forgiveness was going to be a key in that journey was very, very vital.
The book is entitled JoyRide, Life, Death, and Forgiveness, a memoir. And how do they get a copy of this?
This book can be picked up in Medford. I really appreciate Evangel for carrying it at the mall.
Okay. It's at Evangel at the mall?
Okay. And Amazon carries it.
Okay.
And we also have a JoyRide book website. We would love for viewers and listeners of Dove to go on our website. It's www.joyridebook.com.
JoyRide book or books?
Book.
All right, joyridebook.com. Wow, how fascinating. When did you realize that Jesus was Jesus? I mean, I realized you had a relationship when very young with him, but when did you put it all together spiritually? When did that happen for you?
I realized that Jesus was Jesus when I was a little child, but I didn't understand that I needed to invite him into my heart until I was 16.
Okay.
I would do anything for Jesus.
Okay.
Okay. And so on a bigger picture of what you're saying, I didn't know about God the Father until I was much older.
Okay.
I only knew about Jesus, and I only knew Jesus. I talked to him like you would talk to a friend, and little children have a pure faith, and my faith was very pure.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. I want to hear more about this. By the way, Pamela is going to be speaking today at the Rogue Valley Country Club at Casa of the Jackson County Annual Luncheon, and that'll be from noon until 1:30. And I would assume if they want to get information, they can just probably show up over there and hear your whole story. But you may want to get a copy of the book. Check it out at Evangel, JoyRide, and it is at Evangel. There's a picture of there on the screen. And check it out at joyridebook.com as well. Pamela, thanks for coming in. Fascinating.
Perry.
Want to have you back.
Oh, I'd love to come back.
Okay.
Perry, thank you for having me.
You bet. All right. We'll see you next time.